This program was made possible by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Melinda Kiefer, and welcome to Live Green, Tennessee, where we take you across our great state to explore agriculture, agritourism, sustainable living practices, and so much more. In this episode, we talked to Walt Hitch, the Center Director of the Plateau Ag Research and Education Center in Crossville, Tennessee, about sustainable farming practices. Then we visit the man who founded Maryville College and was a prominent figure in education, religion, and civic life. Isaac Anderson's cabin was built in 1802, and it was a mere weeks away from being torn down and forgotten. Today it has a new purpose at its new home at the Smoky Mountain Heritage Center, serving as an important artifact of Tennessee history. And finally, we sit down at the Chicken House with Dawson Davidson at the 93rd Annual Putnam County Fair, who serves as the chair of the Junior Fair Board. Dawson talks about sustainable practices in raising chickens and what it takes to be an award-winning chicken at your local fair. All in this next episode of Live Green, Tennessee. Located in beautiful Crossville, Tennessee, the Plateau Research and Education Center operates as one of 10 research and education centers in the UT Ag Research System across the state of Tennessee. Walt Hitch sits down to tell us about what all the Research and Education Center has to offer and the types of research projects to foster sustainable farming practices.
My name is Walt Hitch, and I am the Center Director at UT's Plateau Research and Education Center in Crossville, Tennessee. Well, this research center began in 1943, so it's 76 years. We celebrated the big 75th anniversary last year, but it's a total of 2,100 acres. So it has a long history of agricultural research, kind of unique how this center came into existence. The county purchased this property and sold it to the state for $1. To begin doing agricultural research here on the plateau. So it's post-war, and so they're looking for folks to how to improve agriculture. So here on the plateau, soils are different, climate's different. We're going to be 7 to 10 degrees cooler than you are in Knoxville, Nashville, and but we're at about 1,800 feet of elevation. So our primary focus here has been beef cattle, fruits and vegetables, and ornamentals. Tennessee is well known for its beef production. We kind of bounce back and forth from being ranked 8th or 9th in the country. What we really have here is a lot of grass. Soils are shallow on the plateau, and so we grow a lot of grass. So we're really forage producers, and the beef cattle is a way to harvest that forage. With that in Tennessee, there somewhere just over probably 1 million head of cattle, but there are 50,000 producers. So the average herd size typically ranges somewhere between 20 to 25 cows per owner. So it's very, very much part-time business, part-time farmers, and so they're always looking for ways to improve their production, to market their beef cattle. And so we do lots of things in terms of forage as far as the research goes, as well as the cattle themselves. But yes, there is a huge Greene County, and Upper East Tennessee is the #1 county. But if you drew the triangle here between Crossville, Cumberland County, the Highland Rim Research and Education Center in Springfield, and Spring Hill, there's just a very good concentration of the beef producers in this state, while they're all throughout the state in that triangle. Well, what we want to do is give an overview, and this is what I want to do when we have a field day. There are 2 things I want to have happen. Well, there's more than 2. Successful, nobody gets injured, everybody goes away happy is one. But I want them to take away something very applied. I can go do this tomorrow. I can go have my soil tested. I can change my fertility. I can go read this article. I can introduce some pollinators. I'm just thinking through the subjects here today. Maybe there's something I can do to my pond, or maybe I've got a small timber lot that I want that I can look at marketing the oaks or whatever whatever the recommendations are from that presentation. In the beef session, we talk about interseeding some of these legumes. So we talk about the forages. Once again, we grow forage. We use the beef to harvest that. Ticks are a big issue these days. There are multitudes of ticks. It's the Asian longhorn tick. It's been located already a couple of places in Tennessee. You know, what's coming with that? So we're tick collectors. We have the tubes and the vials here. When we get a tick or we take one off the cows, we're working the cows, we put it in a tube, we're sending it to Knoxville. So in some sense, we're a little bit of that sentinel plot. You know, what's showing up? You know, what's the population? How frequent is it doing it? The other is all kinds of vaccinations for the cattle. We have one of our veterinarians on talk today. Technologies in agriculture or beef production is on there today. So those are the kinds of talks that you're going to hear. The steak and potatoes being it's our cattle research and our vegetable research. That's where we started with that talk. We added that landowner component because the farmers are the landowners. It's not our target to be out talking to the ones that own 10,000 acres. They're probably in a different program, but lots of these farmers own acreages of land to do that. The wagon tour, we just like to give an overview. People like to get on the wagon, they like to ride, and so we're going to go by several of the different plots because we don't get all of those on there. So they're going to see switchgrass plots. We have a switchgrass breeder that is, it began with some of the cellulosic ethanol, but now has moved into some cellulosic packaging materials, and so there'll be some biodegradable kinds of materials that would be produced from that. You're going to go by some of the sunflowers that are just grown for aesthetic purposes. Really, in 3 weeks, we'll have a Fall Gardeners Festival here. Then the University of Tennessee, we have the Institute of Agriculture, and in the Institute of Agriculture, we're the land-grant university. And so part of that land-grant mission is teaching, research, and extension. So teaching obviously is the college where we're educating students. We are ag research. I call it a field laboratory, just like a biology lab in the building. We're where we take it out and we put it into the field and put it into practice. And then extension is the public outreach. So there's a county extension office in every county in Tennessee, all 95 counties in Tennessee. So it's producers of information, distribution of the information, educating, and then the fourth piece in the Institute is the College of Veterinary Medicine. And so within ag research, you have the 7 academic departments on campus, and each of those faculty members may have different appointments. They can be teaching, research, extension, or they may be joint appointments. But when it comes to the research appointment, they are charged with conducting research, producing information. Some do it in the lab, others do it but some need to be able to do that in a very applied sense. And so we have 10 research and education centers across the state. If you look at Tennessee, the long, narrow state, it's really different from Johnson City, and as you come across into the Tennessee Valley. So we have a research and education in Greenville. We have one East Tennessee, very close to campus. And so in that Tennessee Valley, then you come the Forestry Research and Education Center, housed out of Oak Ridge, but they're about 14,000 acres worth of forest land. You come up, now you're on top of the plateau. We're at 18,000 feet, not much topsoil, cooler climates. All of these are different climates, different soil types, different situations. And then we go into the Central Basin. You've got the Highland Rim in Middle Tennessee. We have the dairy at Middle Tennessee, some beef units. So each center has maybe 2 or 3 areas of primary focus, but they may work with all the departments. So once again, field laboratory. Then you get to West Tennessee where it's very, very much row crop. Once you get on the other side of the Tennessee River, then you're going to get into corn, cotton, soybeans, technology, row crop, those kind of things. So each center really has a different focus, but they contribute to the overall vision of addressing issues in agriculture.
The Isaac Anderson cabin was sitting in East Knoxville in a subdivision that was close to being condemned because it was vacant for several years and becoming a health hazard to surrounding neighbors. Mr. Cole Piper, board member of the Great Smoky Mountain Heritage Center and alumnus of Maryville College, helped give the cabin a new purpose in Townsend. Mr. Piper got a phone call from Maryville College and accepted the challenge to save the Isaac Anderson cabin after all.
The first thought that I had was, we've got to save this cabin. It was sitting in East Knoxville. It had been vacant for a number of years. Actually, it was sitting in the back of a subdivision. It was sitting back in the woods. It really was becoming a health hazard. It was about to be condemned by the city. It got to the point where Maryville College was notified that if something did not happen with this cabin in the next 6 weeks, then it would be torn down and moved. And that's kind of when I got involved. I thought, well, something has to happen. So that's when I made phone calls to people and got the wheels started. I'm Cole Piper. I am a past board member of the Great Smoky Mountain Heritage Center and an alumnus of Maryville College. We are sitting on the second floor of the Isaac Anderson cabin. Isaac Anderson was the founder and first president of Maryville College. Well, Isaac was born in Virginia, and as a young boy, his father relocated the family to, is today, East Knoxville, and built this cabin in 1802. And at the time, Isaac was very much into education. He had on the property what came to be known as Isaac's Log Cabin, where he actually taught students who wanted additional education. And also he was very much interested in religion. He was ordained as a Presbyterian minister and was involved early on in the founding of Second Presbyterian Church in Knoxville. In 1819, it was called the Southern and Western Theological Seminary. It became known as Maryville College in 1842 when it was chartered under that name. Maryville College has a rich history of opening its doors to everyone. The first woman to get an undergraduate degree in the state of Tennessee is a Maryville College graduate. One of the very first African Americans to get a degree is a Maryville College graduate. Throughout his whole life, Isaac Anderson understood the significance and importance of education. What a great way to honor his memory is to have his cabin reconstructed in a place that is honoring the heritage of the Great Smoky Mountains. The cabin was built in 1802, but obviously time had really caused it to deteriorate to great degree, and for a number of years they had been trying to get someone to take the cabin, to rehabilitate it, to move it, to do something rather than have it torn down. So I made a couple phone calls, and Bob Patterson, who is the executive director at the Heritage Center, graciously said, you know, if you can make this happen, then not only will we take the cabin, but we'll put it at a prominent location right at the front of the Heritage Center. I would say if action had not been taken within 6 weeks, then the idea of having a log cabin with Isaac Anderson's name on it would have just been a distant memory. What is unique about this cabin is that it has a second floor. Most of the cabins built of that time period were just a single floor cabin, but Isaac's family and his father had the wherewithal to build a 2-story log cabin. And so that's one of the unique factors of it. Obviously, the cabin, like all the cabins of those times, had a very substantial fireplace, which was really their only source of heat. Another unique aspect of this cabin is that the windows were glass. Once we made the determination, yes, we could save this cabin, and they started to take it down, realized that about 30% of the logs were so rotted that we could not relocate the logs. It was really a massive undertaking, because when you take the cabin apart, each part had to be photographed, numbered, and then brought up here and reassembled. Kind of, if you think of putting a Lego set together, it's putting these different pieces together. Hauled them from East Knoxville up here, then laid them out, put a tarp over them, and all of the brickwork and stonework that we were able to save was also brought up here. And I can remember coming up and looking and seeing and thinking, well, this is Isaac Anderson's cabin, but if we're not able to raise about $150,000, then this is going to be Isaac Anderson's cabin laying on the ground under a tarp. So we're sitting today in the cabin, which is about 95% complete. The last real part that needs to be completed is the fireplace. We were fortunate enough to be able to save almost all of the original stone that was on the fireplace. The one significant thing you will see when completed is that for some reason, when the Andersons built this cabin, they took the stone up so far and then they finished the top with brick. You won't see a complete stone fireplace. You'll see about 3/4 stone and then the last part is brick. The timing of the reconstruction of this cabin is significant because Maryville College is getting ready to start the bicentennial celebration of the founding of Maryville College. The ribbon cutting of the cabin will be the kickoff for the bicentennial celebration. The thing that's so nice about this is that it's right close to the entrance of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, with hundreds of thousands of visitors passing through here. They're going to have the opportunity to stop at the Great Smoky Mountain Heritage Center and go through a very historical cabin. What this does is it preserves and it lets this generation know what it was like for previous generations. Long term, I think the real sense of satisfaction is going to be that there's going to be people and they're going to be introduced to Isaac Anderson and who he was and how important he was to the history of East Tennessee.
At the 93rd Annual Putnam County Fair, Dawson Davidson, a freshman at Tennessee Tech University in the Department of Agriculture, sits down with us to discuss sustainable practices raising chickens, along with what it takes for one's chicken to become an award-winning chicken at your local county fair.
All right, we are in the chicken house at the 93rd Annual Putnam County Fair. I am so excited to be here. You know, the chicken house means so much to me. I've been taking over the chicken house duties for about 2 years now, and I'm really excited for all the new renovations. And the chicken house has such an outreach on the community that I didn't expect it to have. There's so many young kids that come to the fair, and they come for the chickens, whether they know about agriculture or not, and they're just excited to be here and excited to see all the animals. So I'm really happy that it has that kind of impact on the community. Some really great sustainable products and things you can do to raise chickens. One of them being, obviously, people have chickens that have eggs. So feeding a really good, nutritious, wholesome food. We feed the chickens here ourselves, and we really make sure nutrition and water is on the forefront of the animal care at the chicken house. So one thing that we try and make sure is that they're always fed and watered. Another thing to have chickens, you know, on a sustainable level would to be let them free ranging. And free ranging is where you have a chicken and it has a coop, but they're getting to stay outside and eat the grass. And that has so many healthy benefits for the chicken. If you have never seen a real chicken egg made out of a backyard, if you crack open a store-bought egg, it is, you know, yellow and dull. And if you crack open a backyard chicken egg, in the bowl, it is, you know, raised up. It's super fabulous. It's so deep orange. And a lot of people, you know, are so surprised. They think something's wrong with the egg, but that is just so much more nutritious and better for you, and they're free if you have the chicken. So it's just a win-win. And, you know, at the chicken house, we're really trying to teach people about that level of, you know, expertise growing chickens. It's not hard to have a chicken, and it's so rewarding. So chickens, everyone asks the question, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Obviously the chicken lays the egg, and one thing that's a misconception, a female chicken will lay an egg without a rooster. It just takes the rooster to fertilize the egg. So a lot of people, you know, don't know that or maybe be surprised by that. So that is something really fun I teach people. Also another thing, a chicken's lifespan is similar to any other farmyard animal besides a horse or a cow. All small livestock have a shorter lifespan. A chicken is usually typically 5 to 7 years old before it, you know, passes away, but sometimes it can live to 11. I had someone talking to me today at the chicken house and they were like, we just had our favorite hen pass away today and she was 11 years old, but she lived a really full and healthy life. And that sometimes varies. If they're inside in a cage 24/7, they may have a shorter life, but if they're well loved and they're outside and they get to run around, it can be longer. Some misconceptions in the poultry industry I always let newcomers to is, first off, read your labels. When you're buying eggs in the store and it says free range, non-GMO, all those wonderful things that people are really trying to buy for these days, make sure you read and maybe even look into the company. A lot of times if the egg says it's free range and it's in a commercial store, that means the chicken is on the ground in a warehouse. That doesn't mean it's in an open pasture with 10 other friends and they're just frolicking around. Usually that means like 10 to 1,500 chickens in a warehouse on the ground, instead of usually in the industry it's going to be in a cage where they'll be on a wire bottom. So that's one thing I always tell people. And also, myself being in the exhibition poultry industry, a lot of people get confused with, why does this chicken look smaller or things like that. You know, steroids are a huge item in today's society, especially involved with agriculture. So one thing that the chicken house, a lot of people have, this is backyard birds. So these birds are coming in, being raised in the grass, you know, a lot healthier feed than if they were in, and mostly because at an industrial standpoint, the chicken is being fed a lot of steroids and a lot of hormones in the feed. And the chickens at the fair may not look like the idyllic picture chicken because they are being raised on grass with worms and bugs and all kinds of great things. In Tennessee, the poultry industry has such a huge impact on our community. And one thing that I've learned going into an ag major in college, the poultry industry is the #1 hiring rate for newcomers out of college looking for a job. I was at the University of Arkansas recently talking to some people, and one thing I learned was that if they are a poultry major, it is a 98% hiring rate to come out of college and get placed in a job in the poultry industry. And one thing that's really great about Tennessee is that poultry has such a big impact on our community and economic standpoint, and poultry has a $5 billion input into our economic stability as a state. So we're in the South, and chickens are a really big aspect of living in an agricultural state. But that's one thing people are really surprised about, is chicken is the largest commodity. Everyone eats hamburgers and hot dogs and things like that, but everyone also eats 10 times more eggs than they would do a hamburger. So poultry has such a huge impact, and I think if we had any loss in the poultry industry to the state, that would be such a big thing people would really notice that they may never have before. To differ from what people believe, a broiler bird and an egg layer bird are both industry standards in raising chickens, but there are big two differences. A broiler bird is going to be more of a rounder shape with big breasts, and that's what you're going to eat, and that's what's going to be cellophane wrapped in the store. An egg layer bird is obviously going to produce your eggs, but if you see them side by side, an egg layer bird is very lean and thin, and the industry standard for an egg layer is a white leghorn, and they can lay up to 300 eggs a year. So usually, like everyone else, animals have to have breaks. So 300 eggs a year, there's 365 days in a year. That's almost an egg every day with very little breaks, and that is just a powerhouse of laying eggs. And also, our state ranks 14th nationally in the United States of America for raising broiler birds. So we are a really large supplier of meat birds to the entire country. And when you pass those chicken houses and chicken warehouses, you know, in these open fields, and you see the big vents and the fans, that's where these chickens are living, and then they're going to be brought out into the community or into the stores and sold at a market value. So with taking over the chicken house the past 2 years, I have had a lot of bumps in the road to get to this point where it looks so beautiful now. One of them being chickens are messy, and there is a lot of cleaning involved with getting this chicken house ready. I take hours and countless days with a lot of help from volunteers on the Junior Fair Board to get this place looking like it does. And this is not just a 1 week, you know, get in here, throw the chickens in here, and we're out. This is a month-long process of getting the birds prepared to come into the show. So in the exhibition poultry circuit, these birds aren't usually just going to get yanked out of their chicken coop and thrown into a cage. There's a process that has to be taken to get the bird to showing standards. So obviously the genetics is a part, but also when you're at a fair, you're going to want to wash your chicken and, you know, make sure it doesn't have bugs on it and get its legs clean and do a lot of these processes so that it looks really nice. Part of the judging process at a chicken show is conformation is one of them, which is based on genetics, but also how they're kept up and how they're raised, and if they're in good standing order as far as their feathers. Are they intact? Are they clean? And that's one thing people are surprised about. Usually they would just think, well, there's chickens in a cage. They brought them in here from their coop. But there's a long process of preparation before the chicken gets to be put here and judged. And really, a blue ribbon winning chicken has all the components of good genetics, well-kept feathers, good housekeeping, making sure they're fed well, and all these components together is going to make your chicken have a winner. One super fun thing about the judging process at the fair is that we have multi-dimensional layers of ribbons here at the fair, and we really would love for you to come see it for yourself. So when you walk into the chicken house, there's going to be the smaller ribbons, and that's just first, second, and third place on your bottom tier. All the first place birds are then judged against each other for the champion and reserve champion of the show, and that's divided by their classes of what chicken is in each class. And then we have a best of show, and one fair specific award that we have is the President's Award. And our president, John Allen, comes down to the chicken house, he walks around with me, and this is a self-picked by John bird that he thinks is either the most beautiful or the one that he really connects with the most. And that winner, along with all the other awards having premiums, the President's Award comes with a $25 check. And that just really supports people to bring chickens. The President's Award is not about necessarily having the best show bird, but also really encouraging exhibitors to continue, furthering their involvement in agriculture and in the chicken house.
What makes our state unique? Find out on the Tennessee Channel. A statewide initiative by your public television stations. Each program is created in Tennessee, about Tennessee, and broadcasted in Tennessee. This program was made possible by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.